I was in big food business with Unilever for about 15 years, and for all sorts of personal reasons I took redundancy 15 years ago and set up CyberColloids. And CyberColloids has grown into being a contract research company specialized in polysaccharide chemistry and focused on food texture. And the story I'm going to tell you today is something which, as a foodie, I have ignored fibres for a lot of my career, and it's been a bit of an eye-opener the last 4 or 5 years of what is actually going on in the food fibre space. So the main products that we work in are called hydrocolloids or polysaccharides, and they come from a variety of different raw materials, from trees and seeds, plants, seaweeds, microorganisms. And they all are, once they're sourced and purified, and they come into you as bags of white powder. And they all have E numbers. So when somebody says to you, I don't like E numbers, but they're also rejecting a whole range of natural things. Because nature is a word that we use today as something that's inherently healthy. And it annoys me because I could give you a natural yogurt with strychnine in it, and 1 spoonful of the yogurt and you're dead. It'll be 100% natural yogurt, but nature doesn't necessarily mean safe. Nature does not necessarily mean healthy. So the E number system in Europe is really saying to these products have been tested and are regarded as safe, but they're all natural. And then what happens in our business is there are people that take these things. So as a chemist, I understand the polysaccharides, and I'll show you another little diagram later. But when I joined Unilever, I suddenly had to realize that these things are never used on their own. They're interacting with fats, and proteins, and sugars, and very little water in a lot of cases to give us the texture in our mouth. I haven't time to do all, but the sort of things we're working on as a small company down in Cork, it's quite remarkable that we have a global reach. The company's grown into 10 or 11 scientists. We have our own dedicated laboratory in Carrigaline, and we've got clients from China to the United States, from Norway down to India. If you'd said that to me 14 years ago, that was what was going to happen, I would have asked you this, whatever pills you were on, can I have them as well? And one of the things that I would say to you, I don't know the audience, but we've been very active in getting money out of Europe. So we played in the FP7 program, and we're now playing in the Horizon 2020 program. There's also an SME instrument that we're aware of. And if you're not engaged with the Horizon 2020 program, we're very happy to talk to you about it, because the consortiums are formed and they're also always looking for people to play in that space. But you can see we're working from a new fruit fibre, which I'll come back to. We've looked at potato waste here with an EPA grant. We've been looking at a cellulose fat replacer, where they've basically taken cellulose pulp and they've turned it into microfibrillated cellulose. So it's like micron tree trunks with nanofibrils. I know the food industry doesn't like the word nano anymore, but we've been making nano emulsions for thousands of years. So let's just, let's not consumers tell us everything about our lives. But yes, this is an amazing structure of water binding, and it's a fantastic fat replacer. So this is the world that I've lived in, is where traditionally I've looked at gelling agents, polysaccharides, things like pectins and alginates, and then we've looked at traditional hydrocolloids for thickening, which is the guars and xanthans and CMCs. And up until recently, and I'll come back to this slide later, is we've ignored the food fibres. So if you look at a company like Rettenmeier who's selling oat fibre or pea fibre, usually they're a bit gritty. They're used as water binding in baked goods, but they're certainly probably not used in smoothies or in ice cream or in dairy products. But that's changing. Why is it changing? Well, there's certain food drivers happening. The consumers are looking for this naturally functional. They're looking for the free from, and they're looking for less additives. If you go to the States, I was in a sandwich bar and had a big notice on the wall, our products do not contain the following. And they listed a whole pile of chemical names. Well, you'd never find propylene glycols in a sandwich. So why did they have it up on the wall? It's just because this is the way the world's going. We want to prove to you that we don't have all these strange chemical sounding things. The fact that propylene glycols that come from seaweed is misunderstood. We chemists didn't give these things very good names 50 years ago. Then there's the global targets. We've heard about macro, the extra population, the protein shortage, the water shortages. So this is driving sustainability. It's driving, making us look at things that we're throwing away, and food security. And then industry itself, there's a lot of pressure on price. So people are looking to reduce their waste burden. They're trying to reduce their costs. They're trying to look at things that they're throwing away. Can they add value to that? So we're getting involved with all that across the industry. And the industry is responding. Hydrocolloids traditionally has been used to provide fibre, but it's been ignored nutritionally. So people are beginning to look at how to add more of these hydrocolloids into foods to replace fats and increase fibre content. There's been some intelligent processing going on. People are beginning to, these fibres which I'm talking about, the microfibrillated cellulose, they're talking about fibres which have been ripped apart, not shredded and ground into little balls, but they've been shredded in a clever way. So there's green chemistry, there's a green chemistry department in York University, beginning to look at enzymes, beginning to look at kitchen chemistry. I describe myself sometimes as being a stupid chemist because we use chemical terms. But instead of talking about hydrolyzing, I'm talking about treating with lemon juice. Using compounds that my grandmother would have used in the kitchen and use conditions that you would use as a chef. So I say to people, stop thinking like a chemist, start thinking like a chef. And people are looking for these clean labels. Again, it's gone gangbusters in the States. The States used to be the worst on labels, but now they're really wanting to clean up. And there's a lot of opportunity for that. And I'm going backwards. Oh no. So the new food fibres that are coming, CEOs of companies like Pepsi have suddenly decided that they're going to have zero waste by 2030. They own Tropicana. So they're processing a lot of fruit. Middle management of Pepsi and Tropicana knows how to sell juice. They do not know how to process citrus peels or fruit pulp into something. So all our pressed fruit has been thrown away to the farmers. They're not allowed to do that anymore. So there's a bit of a panic going on inside Pepsi. What are we going to do with this stuff? So they find labs like us who have the chance to be creative, and we're taking those and we're activating them. We're beginning to think about the fruit in its holistic sense. Again, if I go back to the beginning of my career, I extracted a polysaccharide from something like seaweed or from citrus peels. I purified it, and I gave a nice white powder, which gave a nice clean solution. But I was throwing away antioxidants, I was throwing away vitamins, I was throwing away omega-3 oils. But as a biologist, as I'm not a biologist, I didn't know that. And as I'm not a nutritionist, I didn't know that what I was throwing away was good for me. So what we're now saying is stop being a stupid chemist. How do we look at a plant in a 100% way and trap the goodness of this fruit or vegetable and get it into the food in a palatable way? Because some of these things are a bit tricky. Some of the carotene products, they're bitter. Some of the antioxidants are bitter. So can we overcome that? So what we've done in fruit, we can activate the pectin inside the fruit and turn it into a gelling fibre. So there's a product on the market called Fiber Gel, which is made from grapefruit skin wastes in Florida, which used to go to the landfill. Now the grapefruit skins are being processed in such a way that you can buy a bag of it, and you can put it into your food, and it reacts with calcium to form a nice pectin gel, but it's not labelled pectin, it's labelled citrus fibre. We've done the same from potato skins. We've done the same with recently carrot. There's 200 tons of carrot a year thrown away, a week in Ireland because of the wrong shape. I mean, come on. Are we really that silly in this world that we throw away things just because they don't look the right shape? Anyway, we've made fat mimetics from cellulose pulp. We've made water binders from oat husks. And recently we've made a gelling fibre straight from seaweed. Alginate is one of the polymers that comes out of seaweed. And we suddenly thought, well, why can't we just take the fresh seaweed, activate the alginate, and make a film? So we've actually made sausage skins straight from seaweed. So it would be labelled a sea vegetable. Again, it won't have an E number, but it'll be the same strength and give you the same adaptability as alginate casings. So let's go back to that slide. What we're seeing is the emergence of what we're calling functional food fibres. They're not just giving you water binding as the traditional water fibres are doing. they're actually giving you some gelling, or they're giving you some fat replacement potential. Very interesting development. So this is one example of why they're used in bakery. It's stabilizing the water, it's improving freshness, it's giving a larger yield, and it's decreasing staling. Then in cellulose fibers, these are the microfibrillated fibers I talked to you about. They're giving creaminess and smoothness, and you're allowed to be able to reduce. I could give you a 3% mayonnaise that tastes like an 80% fat mayonnaise, where the rest is just water. And that's been replaced by 3% cellulose fiber. Okay? So it's a cost saving, but it's also a way of eating less fat. So if you look at Hellmann's, Unilever's product, Hellmann's have a 3% mayonnaise where they're using citrus fiber as a way of replacing all that fat. And that fiber is probably from Herba Foods, Herbacell AQ+. So the market examples that are there are the citrus fibers. The Citrify and Herbacell are just fat replacers. They've just been physically treated, so it's giving this microfibrillation matrix of cellulose. The fiber gel is the activated pectin inside the citrus fiber, so that gels in the presence of calcium. Then you've got other sheared cellulose fibers. You've got the Sensify product from Beauregard, which was the microfibrillated wood pulp, and Z-Trim, which is oat microfibrillated. Functionalized pea fibers, and you've got functionalized oat fiber from all these companies. So these are products that didn't exist 15, 20 years ago. They've emerged under my nose until I noticed them 4 or 5 years ago. And then we've been involved with some of the more latter ones. So the gelling fiber products from citrus we were the, I call it the marriage broker. We found the technology, we verified the technology, and then the technology was sold to the company in the States. And then finally, we did this potato waste product. There's a guy, Meadow Fresh Foods in North Cork. He rang me and he said, I've got 30,000 tons, or access to 30,000 tons of waste potatoes in Ireland. I'd like to make starch from it. So I said, that's interesting. Made a few phone calls. Came back and said, you need 300,000 tons to be thinking of making starch, and it probably is the wrong potato. Oh, so he was very disappointed at that. He then retained a consultant and paid them a lot of money. At the end of a lot of money, the report said, you've got the wrong species of potato and you've got too few potatoes. So I said, well, John, I told you that. I would have happy to take your money. But anyway, you had to go through the formal route. And he did it. But what we've done this time is we've activated the pectin that's in the peel, and we've turned it into a gelling fiber. And it actually works as a very nice water binder and fat replacer in baked goods. So we're waiting to see whether someone's going to pick that up and turn potato skins into something which is of value. He gets 32 cents per kilo wet for his sludge going off his factory. That potato fiber is a gelling fiber, probably worth 3 to 4 euros a kilo. So quite a considerable added value. And then we took carrots, because there's these 200 tons of carrots a week, John tells me, that are thrown away. So we took that and we made carrot juice. And then we took the pulp, we activated the pectin, and we turned that into gelling fibers. And there's a client has taken that and he's made confectionery in Turkey. Don't ask me why I sent it to Turkey, but they've been making confectionery which are orange from the carrot fibers. They're getting two functionalities for one. They're getting the colour they want, which as a chemist I thought that would be a problem. Why would I sell orange powders? But here a guy says, I want the colour. And the client has now come back and said, can you make fibres from beetroot? Yes, we can. Can you make carrots from black carrot? Yes, we can. And we've just done that. Okay? So we are looking at fruits and vegetables as a source of traditional gelling products, but instead of removing the colour and removing the gelling compound, we're looking at the plant holistically and trying to put back as much as we can. One final thing, and I think I've got 30 seconds, is I've just come back from India, where a very interesting group of young scientists have looked at seaweed. And what we normally do with seaweed is we treat it hot, we dry the seaweed, we treat it hot, and we give you your carrageenan or we give you your alginate. These guys have found a way of harvesting it fresh. They're pickling it, so over days there's a small chemical reaction takes place, and at the end of it they have got a stabilized, pickled sea vegetable. It doesn't meet the regulations of carrageenan, it doesn't meet the regulations of agar or alginate, but in Asia it's an edible product. So now, without them knowing it, they've developed a functional sea vegetable fibre. Not going to be able to be sold in Europe because it'll be a novel food. Not going to be able to be sold in the States because it hasn't got grass. But I said, why bother? Go sell it in Asia where you've got such growth, population growth. So they're all excited. I'm all excited because suddenly I've now got my first ever sea vegetable which gels. So that's all quite exciting. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, but I'm hanging around, or you can contact me on email. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ross. And we'll move on now to